Journey with Judy.
Honest, open, transparent. It's hot.
There's no such thing as perfect people. There's no such thing as a perfect life. So come as you are, broken and scarred. Lift up your heart and be amazed and be changed by a perfect God.
Good morning. You are journeying with Judy, and I am so not crying this morning when we start this show because after last week's show, that was like super heavy. So I'm going to lighten it up a little bit. Okay, the last week has been absolute torture in my house. I have been in debilitating pain. And really, I understand that we're journeying with Jesus to the cross right now. So him dying on the cross pales in comparison to the fact that I had to have my toenail removed last week. OMG. Oh my gosh. It was like, I'm not good with physical pain. I'm a little better with emotional pain. But here's the best part. I had a prescription that was going to help me. And so we've been living in our house for the last week with a very distorted perception of reality. My actions, my thoughts, and my words have all been permeated with the PPP, the pain pill perspective. And here's the gig. I was not impeccable with my words. I was totally taking offense. I was taking everything personally, and I was certainly not doing my best, to sum up a show from a few weeks ago. And my solution was obvious. Is it time to take another pill? So I was on the phone with my girlfriend, and I said, I'm convinced that these pills aren't working. And my man said in the background, they're actually making her talk more, if that is even possible. So this pain was my natural response was to take more pills, like I said. And I really have to be honest. It's I thought I had it all together. I thought that I was thinking clearly and seeing things as they really were. But I wasn't. I heard my kids say, is mom still high? Or what is she even saying? Or does she have any idea what she's talking about? Because I would be in this little bit of a stupor or a coma from taking this pill. And then I'd wake up and join a conversation that I knew nothing about. But I couldn't believe what they were saying, that one thing, taking this pill, had anything to do with another. My mood and mind were absolutely altered. And here's the deal, the thing when it comes to faith is it's not just about feeling better. It's about getting better. And I don't think I was getting better. I just think because of my addictive personality, I set the timer and was all ready to take the next pill. So I'd like to apologize to my family for having to deal with me for the last week. And here's the thing. I have so not been praising God in gratitude for the fact that my pain is gone nearly as much as I complained when I suffered, because the bad is always so much worse than the good. So why is that? So just like our F word topic today, it permeates everything. Pause. Just like we talked about the F word last week, and we're going to continue that journey today, I kept thinking, is it them or is it me? Duh, it takes two, but it starts with you. And that you is me. Because I can't F you if I can't F me. Let's talk about that when we get back. You are listening to Journey with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. Welcome back. Thanks for choosing to journey with me this morning. And I'm really hoping you did your homework. Your homework from last week's show was to make a list of all the people that you need to forgive. And that included yourself. We're going to do a little recap of last week's show for those of you who missed it. Forgiveness is simply cutting someone loose, ceasing to feel anger or resentment of a perceived offense. And the key word is perceived. Here's what it is. It's giving up my right to hurt you because you hurt me. It's not denying or minimizing the depth or reality of that hurt. It's a remedy for wounds that intolerable wrongs leave. But there is no guarantee that the offender will ever accept responsibility. It doesn't change the past. It enlarges the future. Our acronym for forgive was finding ourselves really giving individuals valuable energy. So what's the solution? Because we got to go back to our verse, which was forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. So we're talking about mercy. And with mercy, we always need grace. Mercy is not getting what you deserved, and grace is what we get that we didn't deserve. So the F word takes two, starts with you. Mercy begins with me. Forgiveness is what I get to give because he died for me. But here's the deal. I can't F you if I don't F me. When it comes to the F word, we can't give what we don't have. You can't give what you don't got. Think about receiving something. When you try to give somebody a gift, they have to receive it from you. And I've found in my life, it is so much more difficult to forgive myself, to pardon me, than it ever has been to forgive somebody else. And until I understood and received the forgiveness that comes from God every time, all the time, I had to rewind and re-record over those tapes that I played in my mind that said, I'm just a this, I'm just a this. And I had to let God say, no, baby, you're not a this, you're a that. And I had to stop those areas of self-punishment that just allowed me to carry around a backpack of all of my wrongdoings. I had to stop avoiding my lack of forgiveness of myself by trying to escape it daily with behaviors or things that would numb it. I had to stop feeling unworthy, which just caused me to be paralyzed. The fact is, I am unworthy. You are unworthy. But that's okay because God knows that. I had to stop my stinking thinking because I know that God keeps no record of my wrongs. And when I'm making it about my sin, my fault, my regret, my guilt, and my kingdom, those are all things that are just rooted in pride. Forgiving yourself is a choice, and it's a choice based on truth. You got to know the truth because the truth is what's going to set you free. You know, one of my daughter's responses to everything I say in a positive way is, I know. I'll say, Ken, your hair looks great. And she's like, I know. And I said, you rock at volleyball. I know. I said, Ken, you did great on that test. I know. Her standard response to everything that I tell her that's positive is an emphatic, without a doubt reply, I know. I want my 4 children to know, and anybody who was willing to listen to me, to know that when you say to God, I'm sorry, and I ask your forgiveness, that he turns and says, I know. Your sins are forgiven. Go and sin no more. That's what he said over and over and over. It's not based on your feelings. It's got to be based on the fact that you know the truth. And for the longest time, my truth was the perception in which I viewed everything. Just like that pain pill perspective, I truly believed that my sins were greater than the mercy of God. I understand what a demented perception of reality that really is. Because if I can't accept the forgiveness of God and therefore pass that on by forgiving other people, then I'm saying that he died in vain. I got to start living like I've been forgiven. And I know for sure that it's never based on my ability to forgive myself, but it's based on my ability to allow him to work in me and through me so I can live with purpose and on purpose. And I'm going to do that by acknowledging the fact that I got to do this and start dealing with the issues at hand. I got to repent and tell the Lord, I am sorry. And that self-condemnation is in and of itself a sin too. And then I get to accept it and thank him for the fact that he's forgiving me. And then I'm absolutely believing him. I am reaffirming my trust in the truth of what his word says, that he's removed my transgressions as far as the east is from the west. And then I'm going to choose forgiveness based on his word, by an act of my will in faith, choose to forgive me and know that it's never about my feelings, but it's always about the facts. And each time I make a choice based on his truth and not my emotions, I stop replaying in my mind old recordings of everything I've done wrong, stop feeling guilty, and living in a prison. And you've heard me say it before. You do not have to be behind bars to live in prison. And as you take hold of his forgiveness and release your guilt, you're going to walk out of that jail of self-condemnation into the joy of the abundant life. Okay, so now that you know how to F you, how can we F them? We'll be back. You are listening to Journey with Judy right here on Lake 96. I totally love that Mandisa song. It's a good morning. It is a good morning because we get to be forgiven. We get to live like we've been forgiven. And we're going to stop finding ourselves really giving individuals valuable energy. It's just a decision that we got to make. Because here's the deal. In our prayer over and over again, I know we say, forgive us as we forgive them. Oh my gosh, if I was forgiven by God based on the lack of forgiveness I've given to other people, I struggle through those words. And you know, some things are caught and others are taught. And I caught how not to forgive. Because I forgave and I remembered. I told you we didn't forgive and forget at my house. We were taught to hate and remember. And our number one way we are going to start forgiving people is to forgive and remember. But we're going to forgive authentically. But in order to do that, we have to remember authentically how God forgives. That's the remember part. We're not remembering what way they did wrong. We're remembering what we did wrong. And that we were completely forgiven. God is not the guy who says, yeah, but, or if only. There's no conditions. There's no stipulations. That's the way I forgave. We don't have to keep a record of the wrongs. We get to forgive without expecting anything in return. Because he paid a debt he didn't owe, because we owed a debt we couldn't pay. And when you remember the wrong, then remember God's grace to you. Because then you have this ability, this divine intervention that happens within you that allows you to forgive your offender. We get to give it because we got it. Number 2, through words and work. We can't just say it. We got to say what we mean and mean what we say. That's really difficult for me. Saying I love you or saying I forgive you and then holding resentments deep within us, any ill thoughts of any kind, makes those words not what you meant. Can you imagine forgiving someone and wishing them the best, praying for them, being able to share in their successes? That's what forgiveness really means. It says, you take the chokehold off of me. It says, I forgive you and you owe me nothing. I'm not just saying it, but I'm meaning it. And that inward disposition will inevitably foster an outward action. Because you can't have this without that. Number 3, less is more. That's funny because I always thought my last name should be More because more of everything was always better for me. But in this case, less is more. We're going to start really small. We're going to practice daily the FF, the forgiveness factor. I have a girlfriend who says to me all the time, girlfriend, if you could bottle your forgiveness factor as a wife, you'd sell out the shelves every day. You know, that's not a tribute to me. That is God working within me in the life of my marriage. Because I gotta tell you, when my man is at his worst, I can let things go that most people wouldn't. Because I practice daily the forgiveness factor of the really little stuff. Because the really little stuff doesn't ever become the really big stuff then. Ultimately, the smallest act of forgiveness will prepare you for when something is so big. You had some forgiveness factor under your belt that you practiced. And that less is more when more is the most. More than you ever thought you could forgive. Because we're forgiving them as we've been forgiven. And see, I know I cannot undo what's been done. And nothing is going to change what's been done. There's no word that can be spoken. There's no action that can be taken that is going to change the hurt that I felt, the betrayal that I endured. But it doesn't matter because none of those things are relevant when it comes to me making a decision to forgive. First me, and then them. And here's the gig. Mercy trumps justice. We want to say, the punishment should fit the crime. That's what our culture says. That's what my family echoes. But we're insinuating that mercy and justice can't coexist. Not true. When we offer mercy when revenge is justified, it is God's grace at work in us and through us, without a doubt. We got to let God reveal the manner in which justice and mercy is going to be served and trust He's going to do it. It's not up to us. And number 5, we just got to forgive our enemies. 70 times 7 is what Scripture says. Pray for those who persecute you. Forgiven people, you know what they do? They forgive people. Ask me how I know. And the valleys are going to be deeper and the mountains are going to be steeper when it comes to this subject, but you can do it. I got to watch my daughters play volleyball again this past weekend. And this, right out of the gate, there was a couple really bad calls. And my man said, you know what? It all rode on that one call. The whole game rode on that one bad call. And I looked at him and I said, baby, we've all made bad calls. We all wish we could undo something that we've done. But we can't. And as crazy as that sounds, that's the truth. We allow one bad call on behalf of somebody else or on behalf of us to let us sit in a state of unforgiveness of us or of them. And that ain't living like you're forgiven. It's not about what they said or what they did. It's about the thing that you must be rid. Unforgiveness. You are listening to Journey with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. We'll be back. So I got this groovy phone that allows me to put dates in there. And so the obvious purpose of that is so I would remember the date. I cannot tell you how many times I'm at an event and my phone starts vibrating and I look at it and it says, you have an appointment. And the fact of the matter is it went on either in the middle of the appointment or when it was over. And Bob says it's a little late now, don't you think? We do not want that to be the case when it comes to being forgiven, to living like we're forgiven, and extending that to our neighbor. Who's our neighbor? Everybody. Because we've been forgiven, and if we know it, then we show it. And there is a huge difference between being evil and doing evil. We can love the sinner, we can hate the sin. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And forgive us as we forgive them. That is the end of our journey this morning on the topic of effing you and effing me. And here's the ABCs of the F word. Acknowledge. To forgive them, you got to forgive you. Believe God at His word and His truth. And then choose every day to live like you're forgiven. Stay tuned. Life Matters is next with Faith and Nancy. And this week, keep it hot, honest, open, and transparent. Peace out.